Hey everyone, good to see you. If you remember, last week we started to think about the question, why do we pray? Lots of people pray, but why should Christians pray? And firstly, last week we learned it was all about obedience. We pray because God, our loving Father, tells us to. So this week we are going to learn that we pray because of dependence. We pray to God because we need His help. We pray to God because of our dependence on Him. So if you haven't yet, go and read Matthew chapter 26, verses 36 to 46. Go read that now. You can pause the video, but go and read that before you watch the rest of the video. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to run through the story and we're going to see how useless the disciples are, but how Jesus tells them to pray to God for help. So they go to this garden called Gethsemane, Jesus and his disciples. And you may know the story. You may know that Jesus is soon about to be arrested. He's soon going to be crucified on the cross for us. Going to die in a really horrible way. So he goes to this garden to pray. Jesus wants to pray for God's help. That's what he tells his disciples he's going to do. Whoa, 1 second there. Think about that. Jesus wants to pray. Jesus. This is God's Son, the perfect human. The man who could calm storms, heal lepers, heal the blind, feed 5,000. He needed to pray to God. Isn't that just mind-blowing? Jesus needed to pray to God. If he needs to pray, then why don't, obviously we need to pray too. Okay, anyway, back to the story. So Jesus asked the disciples to stay here, stay where they are and keep watch. It's a very simple thing to do. Stay there and keep watch. In fact, it's so simple, I can even get our dog Hudson to do it. Look, have a look. Hudson, stay there. Okay, stay there. Good boy. Even Hudson can do it. So Jesus goes, he tells them to stay where they are, and he goes and prays to his Father. Remember how amazing it is that even Jesus prayed to his Father. Even he needed God's help. So anyway, Jesus goes off to pray to his Father. But then he comes back and guess what he finds? He finds the disciples sleeping. They're sleeping. He says to them, couldn't you keep watch with me for 1 hour? Then he said these words, watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. Because the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. I've got these things to put up. So Jesus says to his disciples, watch and pray. Why? Because the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. So Jesus tells his disciples to pray, to watch and to pray, because they need God's help to stay awake, to stay alert. Because even if they might be willing, they are weak. Watch and pray, because the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. That's why they needed to pray. And that's why we need to pray. Jesus then goes to pray to his Father again. Okay, so he goes away, prays to his Father. And then when he comes back, you'll never guess what he sees again. They're sleeping. The disciples are sleeping again. So he said the same thing as before. He left them to pray. He went away for a third time, okay? So he went there for a third time. And then he came back after praying to his Father. And what did he see? Again, the disciples sleeping. They couldn't stay awake. They were pathetic and rubbish and useless. They couldn't even stay awake when Jesus asked them to. And that is why they needed to pray, because they're weak. Jesus knew that they would struggle, so they needed to pray for God's help. And that is the same with all of us. We are just like those disciples who couldn't stay awake. We need to pray because we are weak. We try to follow God's way. We try to do what Jesus says. He tells us to love God and to love other people. We might try as hard as we want. We might be willing, but we are weak. We can't do it. We mess up all the time. You probably know that. I know that. However hard we try, we always mess up. So we need to pray. We need to pray and ask for God's help. He promises to help us. Jesus tells his disciples to pray because they are weak. That is why we need to pray, because we are weak. We pray out of dependence. If you think about it, when you're in school and you're finding your maths or your English or your science work, you're finding it really, really hard. Imagine if you didn't ask your teacher for help. That would be really silly. You'd be trying really hard. You wouldn't be able to do it, but you wouldn't be going to the person who can help you, your teacher. You see, Jesus tells us to pray to God for help. I mean, it's silly if we don't pray to God, because we know we need his help, and we know he wants to help, and we know he can help. We pray to God out of dependence. We pray because even though we might be willing, the body, we are weak, so we need God's help. And that is why we pray.